Let us know when we're live.
I'm afraid to show my teeth now.
It's not cosmetic. It was because my bite came out of alignment because of my mouth guard, and then I couldn't actually bite down.
God, how long have you had that?
It just started happening this year, and then the orthodontist recommended just Invisalign to just fix the bite. Oh, I think we're live. All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So everyone just got a lot of really important information about my dental. So yes, everyone, welcome. This is the announcement video where we're going to share with you who we chose as our 3 top challengers for the March 50 Object Drawing Challenge. I am joined with my 2 co-judges here. Chris Legaspi, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you.
Chris is an author, educator, and a professional movie poster illustrator for Hollywood. You have probably seen Chris on the New Masters Academy site. He's got several courses, including a course where he and our other judge, who I'll introduce in a moment, co-created, which was the basis of this challenge. If you want to find more information about Chris, check out his website, drawwithchris.com. It's really great. He does classes, there's books, there's all kinds of really excellent learning information. So welcome, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, thank you.
And we're also joined by Heather Lanewski, another New Masters Academy instructor. Heather's a professional illustrator for the entertainment industry, specifically film, and a fine artist. Heather, you can follow her. She's got a great Instagram. It's the links for both of these are going to be in the description, but it's at @Lanewski Art, if I've got that correct, Heather.
That sounds like Instagram. It. Perfect.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks very much. We really appreciate both of you being here.
Thank you.
Okay, so for everybody here, we're going to go through who we chose as our top 3 challengers for this challenge. If you don't know what the challenge is, every month at the New Masters Academy community does a challenge. It might be portraits. It might be a still life. This month it's actually a still life piece. So you can just join in. It's free. You don't have to be a subscriber to participate. Follow the link in the description. Currently, they're being centered around our Discord channel. So if you join the New Masters Academy Discord channel, you can find out about the challenge and you can participate. So we're going to be announcing the 3 top challengers, but just to keep in mind, this isn't a contest. So the goal is for you to learn. That is the actual point of this. So while we're recognizing the people who are in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place, really the focus should be improving. And that's what New Masters Academy is about. We're trying to improve our skills, get better, help each other out. That's the real goal here. So if you didn't get chosen, just keep participating in the challenges. And, if you just keep pushing yourself, you might be able to get one of these top slots next time. So the 1st place winner is going to get a $150 art supply gift card, a master box, which you can learn about at the anime store, which I believe is store.nma.art. The master box is a collaboration with Faber-Castell. It's basically a box of all of our favorite pencils and tools, and it's really fantastic. The box is designed with a Glenn Villepeu drawing, and it's just really cool. Like, the master box is awesome. Also, we're giving a 1 year of premium access to our 1st place winner, which is several $100 value. And all the winners are going to get a Discord role. 2nd place is a $50 art supply gift card, also gets a master box. And 3rd place is a $25 art supply gift card and also a master box as well. So if you are one of the winners, don't worry, you'll be contacted by us on Discord, and we will contact you and arrange to get your stuff shipped to you. So with that, the challenge this month was to draw 50 objects from around the house. This could be pencil, stapler, wood plane, headphones, whatever you like. The inspiration for this course is, of course, our beginner's drawing guide, which is a really excellent course. I highly recommend it. Even people that don't think of themselves as beginner, this is really a monster of a course. And in this course, Chris and Heather introduce the concept of constructive drawing, which is imagining three-dimensional volumes and then using that to draw objects or really anything in a way that is more convincing and more solid. So that was the idea here, where we're looking at construction. We were looking at making sure that you're drawing through the forms. And we wanted to see a really clear understanding of these simple volumes. So with all of that said, I think we should jump in and take a look at our third place winner. Hello, everybody. I'm keeping an eye on the YouTube chat as well. Okay, so third place was Ashley, if I see that correctly. Yeah, AHS. This is Ashley Henderson Sherwood on Instagram. And great work, Ashley. Congratulations. So Heather, if you don't mind, maybe you could just give us a little bit of feedback on what you think Ashley did a good job on in her challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
Or his. I'm not sure if it's his or her.
Ashley crushed a lot of this. I mean, you can see where your understanding and searching out like the specific planes that things are occurring in space. You can see through the lines that you've showed through your construction process that you're getting the point of this, which is really tough. But to see these things, to simplify them and to break down something complex into simple forms in space through the use of your cross contours. And I see sometimes you're noting hash marks to indicate two planes in space, like where things intersect. These are really great tools that you're developing. I see how you're implementing sort of your own process with also like an energetic line quality. So you know when to kind of search, and it looks like you're starting to know when to commit and lay something down confidently. So those are two things that we sort of try to keep in balance. You know, if you search too long, it starts to be a mess. If your line weight's too heavy, you don't know when to lay that like sure mark down. And can I just say these bananas? I love these bananas. There's a couple points on here.
I thought you were going to say these bananas are bananas for a moment.
I mean, I sort of left you open for that. I just like laid that one up. You're supposed to come in and dunk it down. But yeah, just how you've taken like, there's a thing I heard an artist say, like when I first started taking classes, where he said, don't be seduced by the curve, because a lot of times if you start with a curve without first looking at your plums, you'll end up somewhere you didn't mean to go. So if you're trying to draw something representational, if you can look for straights, or you can look for like those points where it peaks, you know, in the curve, and you're doing that. So I'm seeing in this banana, it still feels like an organic form, but I love how you took the opportunity to put in a couple straights to show the structure. Am I like going way too long, Joshua?
No, actually, the more the better. And the feedback we get from people is that they really, like, everybody wants to know who the winners are, but people really want to hear what we have to say about it, because this is also an opportunity for everyone to learn. So I think you're doing a great job. Please.
Okay, cool.
Please continue.
Oh yeah. Okay, great. So anyway, yeah, if it's not that you don't want to show a curve if there's a curve, but those are sort of ways to find where the curve goes accurately. Because if you just try to like start from here and end up in the right place, I still can't do that in one go without first going, well, where is it going to end ish? Where does it sort of peak, like that peak level? And I see how you've used some straights to find where your curve is going to go. So I wanted to give you some credit from some high fives for that.
Yeah. Do you have some feedback, Heather, on some areas for improvement going forward?
I mean, I guess we're going to have to find some, right? Yeah, I think keep working with the ellipses. I see how you're like hashing them out, and try to do before you start. I think it would be one of those things that would benefit you as a warm up to try to get like that rhythm going. You know, maybe you're resting something like a fulcrum on the page and letting your hands slide to kind of get that, just so that you can keep working on smoother and smoother ellipses. Those are really tricky. I can see though, like, you're doing a pretty good job following through on the ellipse. A common mistake is to sort of end up with like a leaf shape where we come too flat into the corner. So keep remembering like the ring around Saturn and going all the way around through your ellipse. I think you're doing that. It's just when some of these are sort of getting those energetic lines in, it's a little bit less clear. And depending on what you're trying to do, I mean, if you're doing more fine art, you can get more into that. If you're doing more illustration, your job is to organize and clarify a lot of times. So a lot of times in illustration, clarity first can be a priority. And to that end, you might want to play with pushing that a little bit. But it's looking really good. There's just a couple tiny places. This ice cream scoops are pretty great. A couple tiny places where those ellipses don't quite follow through. I think on the pencil sharpener, you have some beautiful construction. There's a tricky place where on the upper left in your pencil sharpeners, I believe, the handle, the turning handle comes down, and those double check, again, those ellipses as they're coming out in space, that cylinder. I don't know that those all agree on the same plane, but there's very few. There's more great things to say about this than there is negative feedback or constructive feedback. I was gonna look one more time at your rendered piece if I can flip through it.
Is it possible to make the rendered piece, Liz, full screen?
There it is.
If you're not ready for that, that's fine too.
I pulled up a second little window real quick, but this is beautiful. I just want to say it's stunning. Very high level finish. Even like the way you've sort of subtly, there's some values that are really close together, and you've been able to organize them so that we still see like this horse figure, a little light against dark, against something that's pretty dark as it is. That takes like a lot of discipline in being able to keep those steps separate. So I know that this isn't an exercise in organizing value, but with these that you took to a high level, I just want to say good job on keeping those values organized, those sort of families together when there's something complex like that to handle.
Yeah, that's fantastic feedback. That's really, really useful. Chris, maybe you can hop in here and give us your thoughts. Same thing. What do we think Ashley did successfully, and what could Ashley work on to improve going forward?
Well, I want to say first that all three of these entries, I had a hard time finding any comments at all. If I do have any,
yeah,
they're all everything was very, very well drawn. I was very impressed. If any comments I do have, they're minor. I think all three of the winners clearly understand form and have very good skills already. So specifically for Ashley, I really enjoyed Ashley's last rendered piece. For me, the first thing the word that pops to mind is sense of space and light. I know this was more of a form drawing challenge, but her the lighting and the feeling that all of these forms are in the same space really stood out to me.
Do you find that skill? Maybe this question's open. Sorry to jump in. I'm just curious. As professional illustrators, both of you have a career that many of our community would like to have. How important? This is question just open for both of you. How important is this kind of thinking for your day-to-day work? Because obviously you're not drawing most of the time through the objects or through the characters or through the actors, whatever you're depicting. But how useful are these skills?
Yeah, I would say they're absolutely necessary, specifically if you need to invent something, because the understanding of forms in various objects, you have to, all these simple forms, to me, they're the same forms that are in a figure, or the same forms that are in a car, anything that you would be drawing quite a bit in at least the line of work that I do, or any type of entertainment art, absolutely applies to that.
Heather, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how long I've been doing this. When I screw something up, it's because I didn't take the time to stop and do an underdrawing and figure it out. I'm like, nah, like, I've been doing this. Oh man. And then it's just a waste of time. Like I think, maybe 6 years down the road, like I'll start to be at a level where I don't need that construction underdrawing. Maybe it'll be in my head and maybe I'll like nail it on the first try. But Chris is right. Like the reason that people need an entertainment illustrator sometimes is to bring something to a finish. Sometimes if they have good photography and they want you to treat it, but most of the time they don't have the photography yet. That's why they hired you, to figure it out. At least in most of the things I've worked on, they don't have assets, or they can't share them for NDA reasons, or they don't want to, they're afraid of information leaking. You're sort of stuck. I think being an illustrator a lot of times feels more like solving a puzzle. So they're like, this is how we want this person, this is their outfit, this is the lighting, blah, 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 blah. But before you can do anything, you have to you have to have a system of invention. And I know Chris has some like great classes, and New Masters is full of them. Everyone sort of has like a way they approach it. I'm sure he's got his system like down, but you need some kind of system, and that system is going to be based on seeing things in space. And one of the things that I was saying that like Ashley did so well was, it looks like, these things aren't all grounded, but I can see that you're still thinking about the ground plane. And in illustration, they want to see all different perspectives. So even if you're pretty high level in terms of getting a likeness or understanding anatomy, it's all relative to the perspective that the direction wants to take it. And if you don't lay in some grid marks or have some idea of your axis, X, Y, Z in space, then you can't get it right. And once you have those X, Y, Z kind of things in space, then you're doing this. This is exactly what you're doing. Simplifying into simple forms, trying to see if it's going to work and puzzling it out. So this is like more important than I could ever state. It's just prerequisite.
Yeah, I know that some people like the question exists. It's like, well, why not? Aren't I just working from a photograph? Why do I need to have the forms in my mind as an illustrator? Aren't I provided with the photos, and it's just my job to make a picture out of it? Like maybe Chris, could you speak to that?
You don't always get the photo. That's the bottom line. You gotta invent these things sometimes. I think a photo is a luxury, and it's something you shouldn't rely on, really.
Oh, wonderful. So just to get back on track then, Chris, I know you were saying some of the things that you thought were really strong about this, and I just thought maybe that would be useful for everybody, but maybe we can pick up where we left off. I think you were still on what was strong about Ashley's work.
Oh yeah. I mean, her rendered piece really grabbed my attention. I think it's done well. I think she clearly understands forms. If obviously, like Heather was saying, the ellipses can be tightened up, but we all could practice our ellipses. They're something we're going to be working on for most of our careers, I think. As far as constructive comments, I would like to see her. Something that comes to mind would be, I would like to see her try fabric. Now that I've seen this finished drawing, how she would maybe approach something soft and organic like fabric, and also to include more of the scene, maybe a background image. But she's probably already doing that now. So that's all. Just continue to expand upon this and try different materials and different subjects.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, really useful. I basically agree with everything Chris and Heather were just saying. I think that I like that it looks like this assignment was done correctly. Like it could have been, cleaned up or traced over in such a way that we can't see the work. But I think showing the work is in the spirit of this challenge. So I appreciate that. Yeah, just to agree, I think that what's strong is obviously the solid sense of form that Ashley is working to achieve. Obviously, the rendering, I think the rendering blew us all away. I think we all have that in common, thinking that the rendering was just really meticulously crafted, where none of the local colors in this particular drawing are dominant. It's more about the form, almost like everything was almost like a plaster cast, maybe, which for this kind of assignment I think is really well done. And then just the feeling of like solidity is really fantastic. I mean, I agree with both Heather and Chris that the ellipses can be worked on, especially with those coffee cups in particular. I see some skewing happening on some of those. Some of the details on some of the smaller forms on the pencil sharpener, I noticed the ellipses could use some work. I like the drawing through. So in the tape dispenser, you can see the drawing through. But to transition into a critique, I think that could have been thought out even better. Because if you look at the roll of tape, you can see that Ashley was trying to imagine where that tape roll would be, but it's not as careful as the parts that we could see. So I think that if, like in the tape dispenser situation, if we could have maybe imagined a little bit more of a plan of it, like what's the footprint of the tape dispenser, and then where would the cylinder have to be in order to be correct. I think that could have been done even a little bit more carefully. Same thing with the banana. I like the contour lines that are going over the form, but what I would have liked to see is also trying to imagine on the drawing through and the reverse side, because you know what the pattern is, right? It's almost like a lathed pattern. So you know that it's these sort of planes that are surrounding like a cylinder. So you probably could have even like connected those little contour lines all the way around. So I would push the follow through even more, and I would push the X-ray vision even more. And also, I think with the shadows seem mostly decorative to me. I feel like the shadows could have been a little more three-dimensional. So as an example, it looks to me like the object is very carefully constructed and the shadows are copied. That's the impression I get. Like on the teacups or the coffee mugs, for example, I think you could have been like, if you look at like the shadows in a way, the Terminator is really a contour line. It's a kind of contour line. So the shadows have to follow the form just as clearly and just as logically as a detail or a contour line that you've drawn. So I would just say to keep that in mind. Obviously, light and shadow was not the priority here, but keep in mind that the shadows, and the Terminator, which is the line that really distinguishes the separation between light and shadow, make sure that those are really clearly three-dimensional. So that would be my advice for Ashley to continue. But overall, fantastic job. This is definitely well-earned victory here. So yeah, congratulations. And if anybody has something else to add, maybe jump in right now. If not, I think we can probably move on to our second place.
Congratulations, Ashley.
Yeah, well done.
Awesome. Okay, Liz, can we move to second place then, please? Second place is Ash Tulio. So cool. And maybe this time, Chris, you could start us off with your thoughts on Ash's work here.
Okay, Ash is another one where I had difficult time finding any comments or feedback. But first of all, the strengths are the clear understanding of form, the drawing through is really strong, and the sense of perspective is very strong. It's very evident. It's very wonderful. Like these forms feel like the vanishing line is thought out very well and followed through very well. The dumbbell stands out to me. How you have the even the three-point perspective happening with it is really, really interesting. Really well drawn, and the line works very crisp, very sharp. I believe it's maybe pen or a dark graphite pencil, but very sharp line work. And the rendering obviously is gorgeous. The materials, I think, to me really stand out and really grab my attention, and they read very clearly. The forms are drawn well. But yeah, I mean, I know this was a form drawing exercise, but the values are done well, very organized. If I had any comments, I would say the I feel like um, the man-made forms, the have a lot of care and attention, but these skulls, I feel like they have a little bit less. It looks like you lose a little bit of interest in the skull. I could be wrong. These organic little animal skulls, I mean, they're excellent and their perspective reads well, but there's a missing feeling of um, they do feel kind of mechanical and um, almost plastic. I don't want to make it sound like to downplay your drawing, but I think if I had any comment, it would be to add some, what's the word I'm looking for? Some chaos, because there's imperfection in in these organic forms and bones, especially bones in human anatomy and things. So that's the only thing I would add as far as your line drawing. And for the finished drawings, I would say I would love to have seen the cast shadow and the indication of the surface they're on, because the lighting and the treatment you did on the forms are excellent. That's the only thing I would have liked to have seen. But yeah, wonderful job, Ashley. Yeah, well deserved. Well
I
done.
think this is Ash. I'm not sure.
Oh, Ash
Yeah, yeah.
Tulio.
Yeah, the Ashes have swept the awards.
I know, 2 out of 3.
Yeah, fantastic. And so then maybe this time I'll go second, and then Heather, you can finish us off
Sure.
afterwards if that works. Yeah, I mean, to echo all of Chris's comments, fantastic. I think in particular, as Chris said, the human-made objects were done really well. I like the challenge of the organics for sure. Like, obviously, organics are harder, but I do think that the strength of this was really in the mechanical objects, which you could see really clearly. And just I like, I like when people really take the time to figure out where these, like, planning the contour lines, and it seems like you did that. And I think in most cases your strategy for which contour lines to show was a good strategy. um, I really, in particular, I like the concave surfaces. So that broken jar, I like the lines running inside of that. That's really cool. Not everybody tackled the concave surfaces inside the shell. Is the same thing. But in terms of how to improve, and also the little hand model is really well done too. I think in terms of improvement, I agree with Chris. The organics are probably not as strong. So some issues I see is like the boots, not the final rendered boot, but the actual smaller image of the boots. I'm not feeling that the foreshortened view, like from above. I'm not feeling like those overlaps are correct. Like, it looks funny to me. It looks a little bit distorted to me. Um, I feel like you should be working on how to translate the clear, simple conception with, like Chris says, the chaos, but also the curves. So, like in the cool little shark toy, which looks like maybe it's like a wood carved toy with the ribs, that's somewhere between, like a human made object, like a mechanical object, and something organic. But one thing that I see that's missing from it is like the axis, the curve, the spine, if we want to imagine it was a real shark, is definitely like a curve. And in this case, because I know Heather said that it can be useful to use straights to build up to a curve, but in this case, it's the curve that suffers. So if you see the little shark, how it's churning away from us in the upper shark view, it doesn't look like it's really curved. It looks like it's just cut. And I think that's where some of the attention could be, which is in these curves. And like Chris said, the skulls are really clear and well thought out. But it seems like any time where you need to follow something curved and organic, it doesn't go as smoothly as when you have those. Like, it seems like you're more comfortable with like the prop kind of a thing rather than the soft organics. So to work on that, I think it's just a matter of just continuing to practice, and I think you'll get better at it. The same thing with the shell. The shells are they're really clearly thought out, but there's maybe not enough attention to, for lack of a better word, the gesture. So curved gesture or something that I would really focus on. And the final rendering is just technically really impressive. But what I would have liked to see is I would have liked to have seen how the shadows factor in. Like, for example, the boot is on top of the umbrella, and yet I can't find any evidence that it's making contact. Like, I don't see the cast shadow I would expect to see that's showing that this is on top of that. The lighting is probably very soft, and it's more of a front lighting. If I'm judging by the reflection on the canister, it's actually up and to the left. So maybe that's the case there, but I would like to see a little more like, and also the little sketchbook or the little wallet or whatever that is, it is casting a soft shadow onto the shoe. But I would think about, okay, well, taking this further to the next step, how do we sell the idea that these objects are on a surface, and how do we sell that these objects are making contact with each other? And then the last thing I'll say is, while the 3-point perspective is definitely impressive, especially for this exercise, I just would caution you that, I mean, Leonardo talks a lot about this, but generally speaking, we don't want things to feel as if there is more perspective distortion than we would really witness when we were looking at it. So for some fields like product design, you do want to push it, and that might be where you're going. But I just want to introduce the idea that sometimes we want to be subtle and pull back on that. So, for example, like Urbino, the person who authored the Codex Huygens, talks about getting 2.5 to 3 times the height of the object back before drawing it. And so depending on your application, this might be fine. Like, again, if you're going into product design, but there are other applications where you might want to pull back and not push the perspective quite as far, especially like in the drill, for example. That's pretty extreme. So if you were doing like a 5-point Kim Jong-gi style thing, that might make sense. But for a lot of applications, that's too much. And so what you're really going to want to do is you're going to want to get further from your object if you're photographing it, or further from your object if you're drawing it, or if you're just making it up, pushing your vanishing points further apart, and pushing your station point, in the parlance of perspective, further down. Just something to keep in mind, just something to think about. So maybe with that, I mean, congratulations, obviously super strong work. I know I focused a lot on the critique there, but Heather, would you mind just giving us your thoughts on Ash's work?
Love to. Yeah, great job, Ash. Really, really nice, really good understanding, really good job explaining to us what we're seeing in space. I am wondering a little bit about what we've been talking about with like the perspectives, like the one what's like a jug that you pump, and I'm looking at how you've got like things converging off into space, and I am wondering where you were in relationship to some of these things. They look cool, and it's not that they're like not showing they're showing tremendous amount of volume, but it's making me, it's a little bit distracting in terms of, am I viewing it and just appreciating what it is and the form, or am I kind of like, where was she sitting? Or sorry, I'm not sure what your pronoun is, but where were you sitting when you were looking at these things? And I wonder if some of them were maybe like, I do sometimes when I don't have the object that I want to draw, look at a 3D model. And I notice a lot of times on sites that have the 3D models, as I manipulate them, they can get really distorted. So in some cases, like the boot where it looks like you had a glass table and you were looking under it, or maybe it was flipped the other way. The relative size of the like toe section versus like that ankle section, to me seems like it's a little bit of that camera distortion, like when your dog puts his nose too close to the camera and then the head starts to shrink as it goes away. I do see some of that. I'm kind of just curious, like where you were in relation, or maybe it was just if you're using like certain models, or if you're pushing it for an effect, then that can be, like Joshua was saying, depending on the application, that can be a really valuable tool. So the fact that you understand it is the most important thing. And then just remembering how you use it will drive a certain feeling one way or the other. So nothing like right or wrong about it, but it makes me just like a little bit, I notice that I'm trying to like figure it out in my head. It could just be because this is the kind of thing that like I look at a lot, but it depends on the desired, I guess, what you want the audience to think too when they're looking at it. But I think these are so beautiful and so delicately handled. Let me see if there was something else I was going to
Yeah,
say.
like that vacuum cleaner almost looks like you're base jumping, like you're a little, a little army man toy, base jumping off of it. Like it looks like it's massive. Like it looks like it's a building,
Yeah, it's got like a really cool effect. So yeah, I don't know if you're watching and you can write into Joshua. It'd be fun to hear how you how you approached the exercises. And then I'll just say, in terms of your beautifully rendered final piece, I think it's gorgeous, and it's interesting because you didn't cast any shadows. It almost feels like things are floating, or they're a little bit otherworldly, or it sort of gives another feeling to it. But I do think in an assignment about form, it's important to point out where in the umbrella, for instance, how you treated the light section across the front edge like a ribbon, which is great. That decision in lighting adds to an idea of, I guess I'll say, local form, not necessarily of like a directional light. It's sort of, I can still tell where the light's coming from, I think, from this side on this object. But I think that decision advances, the construction in some ways. Whereas like if I look at the water bottle, the top of it, I'm feeling the form. And as I track it down, it flattens for me when it gets to like the toe of the boot. So you might consider, one, it's really close to forming like a little bit of a tangent that sort of seems like a graphic shape. And if you're not going to cast shadows, I think it's probably even easier for things to start to flatten. But when we're trying to show volume, it's interesting how sometimes adding even local color doesn't necessarily help create more volume. And in this case, I think it actually starts to feel flat again. So you might consider, if this is a reflective surface, like how the boot would interact with it, or how the umbrella would interact with it, and sort of indicate even, I wouldn't even mind if you left some cross contours in it, like made them up, just to keep that volume feeling as it intersects those other objects. But it's so beautiful that this is like higher level stuff that I wouldn't even have thought of doing if you hadn't gotten so many other things right. But I just think it might be valuable to share. So great job.
Yeah. And Heather, as you were saying that, you actually, called my attention to what now it's very obvious to me, but that bottle, the perspective doesn't totally agree between these objects in the final rendering. So that bottle is converging quite a bit in 3-point perspective as we go down. But for example, the boot's not, and the boot is sort of similar in size. So we maybe making sure that the objects agree a little bit more in the same perspective space. Maybe that would be a way to say it. But yeah, congratulations, Ash. Really great work. Also, like a lot of attention to detail. Like the smaller cylinders are, besides the one on the drill, are pretty good. They really, like, a lot of discipline here. So fantastic job. And yeah, you really congratulations on this. So let's go ahead and move on then to our first place winner, who I don't think is going to be a surprise to anyone who was following the thread. I do have to say, though, that Peter has, as many of you know, has started helping out with some of the streams. And since Eden is taking a little bit of time off from Discord, Peter actually picked up the actual helping on the challenges in particular. So just to be clear, none of the judges knew that Peter was actually, besides me, obviously, none of them knew that Peter was actually also modding and sort of managing the challenge. And probably if Peter continues to do the challenges, he won't be entering them, just to make sure that there's the understanding that everything's fair. But I just want to say that this didn't factor into the choice of Peter being part the first place winner. I think, as you'll see on this next page, it's pretty clear why he got it. So with that out of the way, maybe we should look. And maybe this time I'll go first, if you don't mind, and I'll sort of keep it short so that you can get into it. But obviously, just a really obvious attention and care into every piece. These almost look like architectural renderings or something in terms of how precise they are. Looking at the drill, for example, like this Makita drill, or maybe it's whatever the brand is, that drill is quite well designed. This almost looks like designs for props for like a sci-fi film or something. Just really cool. Fantastic attention to the form. And even the little details, like I thought the Swiss Army knife was a nice flex. It was really cool. Also, even the ridges, on the headset are just really well done. And Peter, you also tackle difficult forms like mice. Like mice are like cars. They're designed with curves, and that's quite complex to try to draw. So really fantastic job. I'll let the others speak more to that. The inside of the teacup was nice. I think I might have mentioned this in person when we were talking, but in the teacup example on like the third from the top, the third from the left on the top row, I would have liked to see on that inner contour that you did. I would have liked to see you continue the sections instead of it just being ellipses and then you put the detail. I would have liked to see the contour lines sort of follow. Also on the guitar, although it's well done, the curves, I feel like the curves are a little bit uncertain. And obviously this is always going to be the challenge. And a lot of these curves are handled really well, but the guitar, the curves maybe are just a little not as sure as they could have been. The same thing with the boxing gloves. I feel like with the boxing gloves, it doesn't quite feel organic enough. Like it feels a little pinched and it feels a little bit overly planed out. And I'd like to feel like the squishy softness of the actual gloves themselves. So what I would say is maybe focus on your rounder, more organic forms. The shoe in the bottom right is really well done, but still there's a slight pinching quality to it. So I think you're going to want to continue to try to like marry the idea of like mechanical objects and the gesture and the curves and that kind of thing. The same thing with the little sculpture of this woman in the top, near the top right. It's not as strong as the other objects. So organics, curves, these are the things I think that you can continue on. And obviously those little gouache studies are also awesome. I'll sort of let maybe Chris, you can pick it up from here if you don't mind.
Yeah, Peter did an excellent job, clear understanding of form, and like you said, Josh, with the attention to detail, the overall forms are very sharp. Perspective is sharp, and yeah, even the tiny details were addressed, which is very impressive. Really nice, clean line work. Yeah, and I thought the same thing too about the organic forms. The boot is actually my favorite because it's a balance of the more mechanical form drawing with the draw throughs and the contour lines, but it does feel quite organic. The statue of the female, the woman there. Yeah, it doesn't feel as organic, as fluid as the other. So I think again that would be something I would like to see you do. Just practice more organic forms and maybe add some more gesture and spontaneity to it. And one tiny little comment is this. It looks like a video card with the two fans. That to me is very impressive because the amount of detail and attention and so many vanishing lines to draw, and they're all feel correct. The one thing that stands out is the on that page, there's the middle drawing. The seems like these little rectangles, these group of rectangles near close to the plug. And I feel like the alignment is off, which is, it's not still very, very well done, very impressive. But because it's so close to the camera, it's kind of taking away from the quality of the rest of the drawing, because everything else is drawn really well. The fan blades is incredible, the way they feel like they're in correct perspective. So I think that's the one tiny comment I would have, is because those smaller details are so close to the camera, they're up front. You want to pay even more attention to them, make sure that they're really, really sharp, they're all lined up. And yeah, it's really about it. I would like to see you, and also I know this was not a painting assignment, but your color, in my opinion, is quite good. The light the temperature of the light and the temperature of the shadows reads very, very well. So I would like to see you. I'd like to see more of your painting. Actually, I don't know if that's quite a drawing comment, but yeah, you clearly can draw. I think, and you clearly can paint. I would like to see. I would like to see more, and for sure, I would. If anything, your technical drawing is so strong. I'd like to see you do more chaotic work. If anything, if that makes sense. Add some more of that in it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, fantastic feedback, Chris. We appreciate it. So Heather, maybe you could finish us off with feedback on Peter's work.
Yeah, Peter. Well done, sir. Totally want to see more painting. Yeah. Agree with both these guys. And I just thought that was such a nice, like, beautiful little bonus to get to see you take on a couple of these things. Beautiful paintings. Really, really great. So yeah, most of the feedback is like insanely positive. I'll try to come up with some constructive stuff for you. I agree with Chris. Like, you just on this like air conditioner fan thing, like you nailed some really complex ones, and then just see that all the way through to that end where I see your construction line and the buttons just don't like quite hit it. And compared to everything else that feels so lined up, that stands like out a little bit. But it's so beautiful. Let me see, one thing I noticed. I'm not sure where I'm seeing this in space, this statue. Maybe it's like a dancing thing on a dashboard where it moves. But if I follow the ground plane and then find a vertical, I wonder if it would really stand up. It feels like a little bit like when I'm seeing it in the perspective and I can't exactly tell how it's grounded or like where it is in the world. It feels like if that base were to lay like flat, I wonder if she goes off to the side a little bit. So maybe that's just because I don't know the context around it. But I do wonder where her like sort of, like center of gravity is, I guess, on the chick that's kind of doing like a sweet dance move. So I would just, yeah, if you were going to take some notes, I'd ask if you could just like explain that a little bit more with a couple more lines maybe, or check that. And love these headphones. Love the feeling of the pad like beneath the top piece on that headset. And I really like how you're tracking all these cross contours around. And yeah, I think like next steps are, you get it. You get how to look for things in space, and you're paying attention. You're going slow enough to observe what you need to observe. This shield mask is super cool with this curve. Follow that curve line through. It sort of hits a point when it hits its like vertical plane. Just follow that through. You can get that just a little more curved so that it has more like of a continuity feel to it. These are like minor. I'm like, what can I find that'll help this guy? It looks great. And I think it is valuable advice to like start to play with gesture and, kind of get into some maybe more like advanced things. Because once you start to see things in space, you may want to develop the ability to manipulate them more, or to hit more organic things, or if you start getting into humans. One exercise that I've been given that will, again, be an ongoing project for the rest of my life is to go just outside and try to capture the gestures of people that are moving, like coffee shop. If COVID and everything gets to a point where you can, from a safe distance, observe humans or through a glass or whatever, if you can start to play with some of that, I think you're full on ready for it. And in those moments, you won't be able to track every little thing. You've shown that you can. So now when you have limited time and someone's going to like make you and move when they feel you watching them, what is most essential and what do you need to capture before they move? And with a few gesture lines, can you say more with less? So I think going forward, you have some more like exciting, higher level territory to tackle. I think you're ready for it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Heather, because when I was looking at some of the ones where I was a little harsher in my critique, one thing I thought is that simplification would have helped. So it seems like there's a very consistent level of form understanding, and it's rather high detail. And I'm
Totally.
assuming just looking at it, it's very observational. Whereas when you have something more complex, like a branch or a tree or a person or an animal, that technique is going to not work as well. You need to have more strategies for simplification. So I agree that the next step could be trying to, just like you said, say more with less, but trying to like get the main idea of what this is first. Like with the guitar, maybe it's that the actual form is in a box and then the curves are hitting points within that box. With the dancing little sculpture, maybe it's more like what are the simple connecting volumes, but connecting the skills you have with that, I think it's just going to be tremendous. Like what you're going to be able to do if you can make that leap from here on out. So fantastic work, Peter. Congratulations to everybody who won. Everyone else, the really strong work. Definitely, yes, congratulations. Definitely
Nice.
keep it up. So yeah, thank you so much, Heather and Chris for joining us. Chris has got some upcoming content for New Masters Academy. Please stay tuned for that. And Heather also is going to be doing an actual live stream class for New Masters coming up. So details will be announced soon. But thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules for joining us. And thank you so much for participating. Everybody, if you want to get involved, follow the link, get onto our Discord channel. For any of you who are wondering where we're at with the anatomy course, just keep following. We're getting closer. I'm working on it basically full time right now. And I'm really looking forward to that. So thanks so much, everybody. And congratulations to the winners.
Congratulations. Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Nice seeing you, Heather.
Yeah. Okay.
Chris. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.